marry and for what reasons I marry are entirely my own decisions, and nobody is allowed to judge me for that. For a man who believes that he does not find happiness in the women in his own locality and would rather choose to marry someone from a foreign nation like Cambodia, Philippines, or Mexico, then he should be allowed to do so if that is what truly makes him happy. Vice versa, if a woman believes that her only shot at happiness and survival happens to be through marriage to a man in a country like USA or UK, then she should be allowed to go for she should be allowed to pursue such a marriage, right? We believe that thus a woman who has no prospects in her home country, a woman who believes that she cannot find a way to survive in her home country, should be allowed to marry, for whatever reason, a man from a Western nation. And if such a marriage happens through mail order brides systems, then it's not necessarily the worst of things, at least not for the woman herself, right? So let's first understand who these men and women are. These men are simple men who are capable of sustaining a family in themselves. They have nothing wrong with them except that they want perhaps an Asian or a Latina wife. And is that so wrong? No, because that's what makes him happy, right? He believes that he cannot be okay with someone from his own locality and thus is looking for a bride elsewhere. Vice versa, these women are women in deplorable situations in their home country. A woman in Mexico is most likely to get raped before she reaches the age of 17 because local gang wars will come into their homes, beat up her brother and father, demand her virginity, and walk away, right? And assuming that the brother and father try to protest, they get beaten up and killed as well. Women in these places have no security whatsoever. Also, these women in places like Cambodia, Philippines, and so on happen to live in extremely patriarchal societies where, let's understand this, she has zero to little career or educational prospects, even in cases like Mexico. Let's understand why. Because these women are deemed as individuals who are less competent than men. That patriarchal thought process prevents their families from investing in their future, and instead makes these families invest in the futures of their male children. As a result, these women continually, over generations, get no way of furthering themselves in life. There's no chance or no hope for them ever. What's even worse is that if assuming they marry within their own locality, chances are that their husbands are equally patriarchal and will always keep these women under their own iron fists, making them obey whatever they want and giving them again the same little independence that she would have gotten under her own father's regime. Ultimately, these women have very little liberty and freedom within their own nations. And what's even worse is that they have no way of breaking out of that chain through means of a financial independence or via a job a job in the first place via education, right? Because she has no ability to find a way to educate herself because her society has inherently set up barriers to this. So as a 19-year-old woman looking to break out of that cycle, I believe that one of the best methods I can do this through is by finding myself in some foreign country. Let's understand that countries like USA and UK will not accept regular migration from these women because, well, a country like USA or UK don't deem them worthy enough. The only way I, as a woman coming from such horrible conditions, can only enter US or UK through marriage, right? Let's understand how these agents thus help me reach my goal. They allow me to read profiles of clients who've paid them in turn to provide me their resumes and their entire mental and criminal history. So I can verify for myself, and the agents in turn also verify whether these people are suited for me for marriage, right? I get to figure out whether I'm okay marrying person A, B, or C from USA, UK, or even Germany, right? So basically, ultimately, I am an individual registered as a mail order bride. People go through my profile as well and decide whether they want me or not. And they go through my history and my entire ideas as well. Sure, you don't necessarily physically meet that often, right? But still, it is as good as arranged marriages in many countries that have actually worked out very well, like in India, right? Sure, instances like Peter McAllister may exist every now and then, but I tell you what, such risks exist in regular marriages anyways, where you fall in love with a psycho and you don't realize that he is a psycho until he beats the shit out of you. So ultimately, these risks are still minimized through these agents who verify all the details beforehand. We tell you that this is a safe mode of operation because these agents are in turn regulated by international bodies who consider them to be legitimate businesses, much like dating sites like Shadi.com and so on. Natalia Fox being one of the examples where she got arrested and fined for giving up one of her female mail order brides up to an abusive husband, right? And in turn, that woman even got better settlement offers via the court. So we tell you that ultimately this is a good shot for the woman. Not only does she get to break her cycle of poverty and abuse within her own nation, she gets to find a decent husband who's probably going to provide for her and her family for years to come. Let's also understand that people who are looking for these marriages are actually looking to make these marriages last. USCIS, their immigration offices in USA, actually report that marriages like these tend to last 80% times more than regular marriages within the USA itself, which means that these are probably this means that statistics actually supports marriages like this. But moreover, let's understand this as well. These women have less likely chance of getting abused in countries like USA or UK. They're foreign brides in a foreign neighborhood, which means their neighbors are most likely keeping an eye on them. But more importantly, the immigration office is also keeping an eye on them because they want to see whether this person can naturalize themselves within the process, right? Granted, they get a green card just through marriage, but it's still a long time before they actually settle down properly within that neighborhood. Which means that if she is abused, she has someone she can cry to, regardless of whether that man threatens to send her back home, which he no longer can because via the marriage she got her green card. And more importantly, because if that is the threat he's placing on her, she is going to be protected by the law and not the other way around. So ultimately, she does not need to be subservient entirely to him to begin with, right? But here's also the best part. These women aren't looking for high-end jobs. They're looking for basic jobs that happen to pay more in USA than they did back in Cambodia or Mexico. And more importantly, they are reliant on their husbands who eventually provide for them. And if not their husbands, the states who have now accepted them as citizens to pay for them. Ultimately, in all ways, a woman benefits from registering as a mail-order bride to countries like USA or UK. Right? In debating from the point of view of the woman herself, we believe it is an entirely legitimate and safe mode of operation whereby I make my run for my singular shot at survival to make sure that I have a better future. But what's even better is this. My children born in this country to a father who's half US or half UK will actually see a better life for themselves. As opposed to my children being born in places like Mexico or Cambodia, where they would have to fear for their lives to begin with, right? They are born into a nation where they get free education and free healthcare services to begin with. Sure, you may call this an immigration scam, but guess what? I, as the woman coming from a deplorable situation, I need some way to protect myself, and this happens to be that one way. What's even better is that oftentimes these grooms who tend to take me in even send some money back to my own family, which means I'm capable of supporting my family from a foreign nation as well. Cultural shock and everything can also be overcome by the help of the husband, who are usually, in most cases, willing to help you adapt because they're looking for your relationship with them to last. Ultimately, in many ways, this happens to only serve benefits. Opposition may come up and tell you that this seems like international prostitution and so on, but we tell you it's not. And even if it does seem like the most demeaning thing in the world, this is my shot at survival, and I should be allowed to pursue what makes me happy. Thank you.